Joining me right now is former White House press secretary, Fox News contributor, Kayleigh McEnany. Kayleigh, it's great to have you this morning. Just
good to join
you. You saw that clip of President Biden. It's unfortunate that the world has to view this. Nobody wants to see it. What's your reaction?
Yeah, this is why he doesn't do events like this. This is why, look, he had this in the East Room, notably different than the Brady press briefing room. And I would argue, having been in both rooms, that the press briefing room is far more contentious. The heat gets a little hotter there. It's more interactive. You don't have someone holding the microphone for you. And they knew, he couldn't thrive in that environment. So they did this as controlled as they possibly could with the staffer holding the microphone because they know he does not thrive in these settings. But what is interesting to me, Maria, is, they finally did the press conference, but what about the joint address? If they're not comfortable with the back and forth of Q&A, at least have him stand up and give a speech for an hour and a half, as joint addresses normally are, and lay out his vision, but maybe they don't believe he can even do that.
It's really extraordinary. What did you make of the media, how the media's treatment of President Biden during his first press conference differs from the treatment of President Trump and frankly, the treatment of you when you were at that podium?
Yeah, that's right. Totally different. I mean, you saw very few interruptions. You saw a myriad of interruptions with President Trump. I just randomly went back and watched one of the first press conferences that came up on YouTube of President Trump, just to remind myself of the temperature in the room. And the very first question from ABC's John Carl in that briefing I watched, which was from September of 2020, was, why did you lie to the American people and how can we ever trust you again? I remember another question in another briefing being, do you regret all of your lies? I mean, that kind of assumption embedded in a question, so hostile, so negative, such mistreatment of as sitting president of the United States. You can't even envision a question like that being asked of Joe Biden, nor should it. I think there should be a modicum of respect between a president and a press corps.
Well, I mean, there's also reason to believe that there were falsities told yesterday, and nobody pushed back on it. I mean, for example, President Biden said the overwhelming number of migrants that show up to the border are being sent back. That's just not true. The overwhelming majority of the people showing up at the border are being sent back.
Yeah, it's not true. And of course, an Axios report this week saying 13% of families are being sent back, just 13%. But that was one of a number of mistruths, as you noted, him saying they're not coming because of my policies when we have many migrants on tape specifically saying I am coming here because of President Biden, while some are wearing Biden T-shirts. We know that that is a fact. And what is so frustrating, Maria, is where are the fact checkers? I woke up this morning to monitor the news and you had the Associated Press saying Biden skews some figures. I mean, think about that language. With President Trump, it was never skews a figure. It was he lied and it's inexcusable. That's how they covered President Trump. But with Biden, it's just a little skew of the figures. That's the headline. The fact checkers are derelicting in their duty.
It's very discouraging. How should the American people deal with this? I mean, you've got obviously a press corps that wants Biden to win and wants things like policy of ending the filibuster to get through. That one reporter that we watched earlier saying, why don't you just abolish it if it's from Jim Crow? I mean, do they understand the ramifications of getting rid of the filibuster, something that both sides of the aisle has said is needed for real debate on very important legislation that impacts the American people? Get rid of it, then you just have the Democrats ramming through whatever they want to do. And last time I checked, it's not a moderate Democrat, it's the progressives who want to defund the police.
That's exactly right, Maria. And I'll never forget President Trump saying to me, and I totally agreed with him at the time, look, Kayleigh, if we don't get rid of the filibuster, guess who will? Chuck Schumer. And meanwhile, and I know you remember, Maria, the drumbeat of Schumer and Democrats, and even Joe Biden years ago saying we can't eliminate the filibuster. It's part of the Senate institution. It's sacred. It's sacrosanct. It's part of history and so important to keeping the whims of an election from changing the makeup of a country. This is what they said just months ago. And yet here we are. And now all of a sudden, because it's a change in the presidency, it's all of a sudden a relic of Jim Crow. It's so patently dishonest and so obviously hypocritical.
Well, what do you think about the fact that now all the memos have been changed at the White House to call it the Biden-Harris administration? We're not supposed to call it the Biden administration. We're supposed to call it the Biden-Harris administration. Is this a setup to what we could see later on this year, or I don't know when, sooner rather than later, that Kamala Harris becomes the president?
You know, it's so interesting, Maria, because that happened. It's one thing if it's one mistake where, you know, the Biden-Harris administration, we would just wanted to include our vice president, but it's not that. We've seen President Biden call Kamala Harris President Harris. We saw in the campaign where there was some campaign insignia that basically insinuated the same. So we've seen this time after time play out, and then him completely abdicating his duty on the border, essentially saying this is just too difficult. I'm going to pass it over to the vice president. It's just one in a series of things that when you add them together, it's really strange, and you've got to ask yourself who's calling the shots. By the way, Biden was supposed to be so moderate. This certainly looks more like what a Harris progressive type administration would look like than the so-called moderate Biden we were sold on the campaign.
Yes, you're right. And especially since he's actually saying that he supports ending the filibuster, something that he was against literally for 40 years. While in government, he always said we have to keep the filibuster in there to encourage debate. And now he's saying the opposite. Who's running the show? Is someone telling him, giving him notes? This is what you said on the campaign, so say it again. Are the progressives running this country?
Exactly. I'd love to know who he's making calls to, because earlier in the week we were told by the press secretary that he's in regular communication with President Obama, or they consult somewhat. But this is a much different administration than Obama. In the Obama era, you had, of course, the filibuster in place. You, of course, had on the border some notion of compromise with the Gang of Eight immigration bill that had border security in it. Now what Biden's put forward has no border security. It is all just an amnesty bill. It's so different. The Green New Deal, H.R. 1, federalizing elections. This is not the Obama administration that was certainly moderate in comparison to what we're seeing.
Right. But we are pretty much expecting that he's in touch with President Obama, and a lot of the people in the White House worked for the Obama administration, sort of like Obama's third term. Even
but it seems like he's
the second term was.
Yeah, I would argue this is the squad administration. I mean, this is the AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib wing of the party. That is a fraction of the Democrat Party that has now taken over and become the whole of the Democrat Party.
Yeah, somebody wrote to me today, President Biden is Pinot, president in name only. Because others are obviously at the wheel. Would it be a major mea culpa for him to come out and say, look, we recognize there's a crisis. We're going to put Remain in Mexico policy back in place. We're going to put the wall back in place, let the construction continue. We need to send some messages overseas. Would they ever do that, or is that too much of a mea culpa?
I think it's too much of a mea culpa. It's what he should do, though, Maria, at a certain point. And, we certainly felt this in the Trump administration when a story was building and a narrative was setting in. And for us, the scrutiny was under a microscope because the press is so gut liberal. Here, though, when you finally have the CNNs and MSNBCs of the world asking about the border, the drumbeat has become too strong where, yes, you have to have some sort of veering in policy, but it's not going to happen. And this is just going to get worse. And if President Biden thinks these calls for seeing inside these border facilities are going to go away, they're not. And the numbers are going to get worse. We know that in the summer months. So the fact that we're not getting access, that's not going away. Those calls will continue. He should have a change in policy, yes.
Yeah. Kayleigh, great to talk with you this morning. Thanks very much. We'll keep spotlighting it.
Thank you, Maria.
Sure.